Hey guys, you're listening to episode 55 of the School of Intuition Soundcast, and I'm Natasha Che. This soundcast is a self-realization training for the empathic badass. And today I want to talk to you about how to find the kind of work for yourself that pays $10,000 an hour. Some of you must be sitting there thinking, ooh, that sounds not bad at all. Who wouldn't want to know how to find work or job like that? I know, right? So let's talk about that. Now, I was inspired to talk about this because I had a conversation with a friend recently, and that really got me thinking. Because, we were having lunch and then I asked her, okay, how are you doing? Haven't touched base for a while. And then she started telling me about her life, and she's like, I'm so busy. I've got so many demands on me. I've got kids. I've got her work, has, things going on. Just, normal life stuff, right? But I can clearly see that she's not happy, okay? It's not like she's not doing well. Maybe, by just average normal standard, she's doing pretty good. She leads a normal life, but she's not happy. She's not fulfilled. And that reminded me of something that I've been thinking for a while, that I know I'm sure you know a lot of people in your life they're in different circumstances. So let me ask you this question, okay? I'm sure you have people in your life, if you observe people in different circumstances, two people, they can be both really smart and really hardworking, and it may not be any difference in terms of a level of natural talent or the level of work ethic or even the level of drive. But oftentimes you see one person so much happier, more fulfilled, considered more successful, or is more prosperous in all senses of the word compared to the other person. And I remember this used to really baffles me, because I was like, well, when you're growing up, right? Your parents, your teachers all tell you, hey, being smart is great, but you've got to be hardworking. And if you work hard and you use your talent, you're going to find a decent life for yourself, right? But you observe people, Barack Obama, and my friend who works at a bank. They're both pretty smart. Barack Obama is probably a little bit smarter than my friend, but I wouldn't say in terms of natural talent there's that much of a difference. Okay, there are plenty of things my friend who works at the bank does so much better than Barack Obama. Okay, and the two people, they're both very hardworking people. Most of the people I know are very hardworking, because I guess it's law of attraction thing, because I have great work ethic. I somehow tend to attract people into my life who are also that same style. If I don't work hard, I feel guilty. Okay, if I have a day where I feel like I'm slacking off, I feel like the world is horribly wrong for some reason. Okay, and that would be the days that I'm actually not objectively slacking off, just like I feel like I'm slacking off, because I programmed that way. I have this more than Puritan style of work ethic, and I will work 10-hour a day, more than 10 hours a day, even at a job that I don't like at all. Okay. By the way, if you want to hire people, you want to hire people like me, or people who are like that. They're programmed in the way that to this extent that they have this programmed work ethic built in them that they can't help it but to work. Okay. But the thing is, that really does not determine how happy the person is or how prosperous the person is. If you observe the world, okay, in general. So that really baffles me a lot for a long time. I think about, why is that? Is this karma? It's like fate, or is it something, you accumulate lots of merits in your past life, so you had it easy this time? What is it, right? So, and then what I started realizing is the following, okay? And I want you to listen to this because it's quite important. It's very important because here's the point number one I want to tell you is the way most people think about work. The habitual way that people think about work is quite unhelpful. Now, if you think about this, what is work? When people say, "Oh, this person is really hardworking," when you have this mental image of work, what you think of that emotion that it inspires is like, it has to be a struggle, it has to be something that is not pleasurable. It's something that requires a lot of self-discipline to make yourself do, okay? And then it takes effort. And then at the end of it, you probably feel tired because it's strenuous. It's work, right? So if you don't feel tired, you're probably not working hard enough. So that's the kind of concept most people have about work, okay? So, and then at the end of the day, what people call productive is, I'm the same way because I'm wired the same way. If at the end of a day, I feel like, okay, I produced a bunch of stuff that I can see, I can feel, I can hand it over to other people, and at the same time, I feel tired, I feel spent, then I considered it a productive day where I worked hard. Okay, but here's the thing. That definition of work is not really that helpful when you think about what really leads to your happiness and fulfillment and prosperity, okay? Because work is not created equal. Work is not created equal. There are all sorts of different things that you can do in a day that's considered work, that gives you no leverage at all, that just keeps you in the status quo of where you are in life. And on the other hand, there are things that may not even feel like work, but somehow it gives you leverage. And some of the work or some of the things that you do that you may not consider work has huge ramification on your life that impacts your life in a very long term. If I asked you, hey, how much would you pay for an hour if by the end of the hour, if you do something over this hour, okay, at the end of the hour, you have complete clarity about your life purpose, about what you need to do to reach your highest potential, about that hour will give you this complete clarity about these big questions of your life path. How much would you pay? So if you ask me that, I probably can give you a clear answer, because to me that is just priceless. It's one of those things. It's just I don't think there's a price tag for it. Okay. So that's the kind of work of what I called the kind of work that pays you $10,000 an hour, because it gives you leverage. It has long-term impact, long-term positive impact on your well-being, on your life direction, on your happiness. I'll give you a personal example, okay? Some of you may have heard me tell this story before. I think I've talked about this either in my blog or in one of the previous episodes of the Soundcast, but just bear with me, okay? Because I want to make a different point here. So some of you know I used to have a spiritual mentor. His name is Bill Bauman. So for a while, I used to go to his, he ran a mastermind group for, I don't know, spiritual seekers. So, and we meet a few times a year, and that requires travel. He used to live in Las Vegas. So I used to go to see him 4 or 5 times a year in Las Vegas. And I'm not really a travel person. You know, I kind of hate airplanes. I don't like being squeezed into a tube with screaming babies and people who are annoyed at being squeezed into a tube together with me, and the air is full of germs and, whatever. I don't like traveling, okay? And they're expenses. You have to book the hotels. You have to pay for the hotels. You have to pay for his group. And by the time I got to his office, usually I'm exhausted. And sometimes I'd even wonder, okay, why did I even bother to come here? Why? But here's the thing. I'll tell you why in a second, okay? So one day I was in Bill's mastermind group, and we were talking about a bunch of things, and then the morning session ended and we broke for lunch. So we were sitting there in the restaurant, all of us were sitting with my buddies from the group, and we were chatting, and we ordered lunch, and a salad came, and whatever. And I was sitting there, nothing curious, nothing abnormal. But as these spiritual workshops goes, a lot of things there happen on an intangible level, right? It is the kind of $10,000 per hour work, because on an intangible level, it was helping me to deepen my connection with the source so that I can find clarity about things that I need clarity for. So I was sitting there having lunch with my buddies, and then this feeling, this knowing just suddenly hit me. Natasha, you need to leave your job. Not next year, not next quarter, not even next month. Do it now. It really hit me like a brick. Okay, it's the kind of thing that doesn't allow you to be wishy-washy. It's not like, should I do this? Maybe tomorrow. Let me, calculate the pros and cons. It's not one of those. Okay, it's like, here is your marching order. Do this now. And so, and that's what I did. And from that, the derivative of that has been an amazing journey that I have been on for the past 2-3 years. It all came from that moment of clarity that completely changed my life. Okay? Now, you may say, well, there's this thing called destiny, right? There's this thing called, you know who you are, probably eventually, sooner or later, you figure out what you need to do. That's true. But then, how do you actually figure out? How do you actually figure out these answers to these big questions of life, right? There are ways that can help you to figure these things out easier than otherwise. And when I was sitting there at lunch, it may not seem like I didn't feel like I was working, right? I was not working by the usual definition of the word. However, that is actually very profound work. And that is the kind of $10,000 per hour work. Because it has leverage. Because it is the kind of work that has long-term ramification, long-term impact on my life. And that's what I call $10,000 per hour work. Okay? So, and that's what I mean. Work is not created equal. Okay? Nowadays, everybody's so busy. If you bump into the acquaintance, you're like, how are you? That person probably tells you, oh, I'm so busy. I've got to do this and that and that. Everybody is so busy, right? But busyness is not of the same quality. And this is something very, very important for you to realize is most people, we don't think about this seriously enough. Because here's the thing, okay? If you keep doing, if you are very consciously do more of the $10,000 per hour kind of work, it will have cumulatively over a period of time the $10,000 per hour impact. Your life will be different. Your life will, 5 years from now, if you spend most of the time of your day doing $10,000 per hour work, I'm not saying that's entirely feasible because you've got bills to pay, you've got, logistics that you need to work out, you've got, normal jobs that you need to tend to, and a lot of these activities that you have to do on a daily basis, it's not possible for them to pay off $10,000 per hour, okay? But as long as you're conscious about this, try to squeeze in as much $10,000 per hour work in your days. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, your life will look very, very different from someone else's who may be smarter than you, who may be more talented than you, who may be, who have like better families, richer families than you, who may be even more hardworking than you. But that is the kind of work that has leverage. I'll give you some other examples, okay? What kind of work is what kind of work is $10 per hour, $20 per hour? Those are the kind of things that basically a machine can do. Those kind of things that, more and more the human work will be replaced by computers. It has already been happening in the past 50 years, will happening faster and faster. Go pick up your dry cleaning. Go pay your electricity bills. That kind of work. $10, $20 per hour, depending on where you live. Work that maintain the status quo of your life, of your career, of your job, of your personal life, the things that you have to do for your job, for your family on a daily basis to maintain your current relationships or arrangement so that your life doesn't collapse. Those, I would say between $50 to $100 per hour, depending on what you do. Okay? And then there is the kind of work where you learn new skills, valuable skills that expand your capacity as a human being in whatever sense. It could be professional. It could be in your personal relationships. It could be one of your hobbies that really enriches you as a human being. Something that helps you to learn a new skill, new valuable skill that will give you more leverage in the long term. I consider those $1,000 per hour kind of work. Okay, depending on what kind of skill, right? But it also it differs depending on who you are. But for me, learning to code, that's $1,000 an hour. I love it, and it's super useful for my current work for a lot of different things. And another example. This is something that people don't usually think of. Your spiritual work. The spiritual transition. Your period of transition in your spiritual awakening period. A lot of times you experience things that nobody will consider that work, right? I'm not even talking about like a meditation or chanting. Sometimes I'm talking about the spiritual, transformation that happens spontaneously to you, which I've talked about extensively in the sandcasting, whatever I've written about before, right? So that you don't consider work. Actually, you know what? A lot of times when that happens, it pisses me off because I can't do work. Because I feel like a lot of times I feel like I'm semi-paralyzed by whatever that shift needs to happen because it was so overwhelming. But if you think about it, according to our new definition of work, which is whatever that gives you long-term leverage on your life, right? Spiritual awakening is $1,000 an hour work. If you think about it. So if you feel, I talked about this in the last, I think, 2 episodes before. It should be episode 43. I talk about when you feel, spacey, I can't focus, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm emotional, da-da-da-da-da. In those situations, if you're like me, after 5 minutes, I start to feel super guilty. Oh my God, I'm not working. I'm not producing. I'm not creating. What's wrong with me? Cut yourself some slack, okay? Because those are what you're doing is work. It is actually the kind of work that gives you long-term leverage. It changes who you are, shifts you into a new paradigm, expands your horizon or whatever you call it, shifts you into another dimension to make it sound fancy. So that is what I consider $1,000 per hour work. And then there's work through which you create a long-term asset. The other day I read this article in Rolling Stone, tallies the which concert acts get paid the most in the past year, and I think what comes the top number one is Ed Sheeran, and number 2 is Taylor Swift. I think Taylor Swift made like 400 million sales in her concerts, her mega concerts this year. Now, normally people would say, okay, singing at a concert, running her concert is the kind of work that pays a lot. Obviously, right? Pays a lot of money for her because she's Taylor Swift. But according to the definition that we have, okay, singing at her concert, performing at her concert is actually not the most valuable work that she does. Because the most valuable work that she does is actually when she sits down and writes a song. Because that creates a long-term asset. Without a song, without the album, there will be no concert. The concert is just execution. It's the concert is, it takes some creativity, right? It takes a lot of planning, a lot of, dreaming and scheming. I'm not saying that's not valuable work. But the thing is, the concert is quite a, let's just say it's everything is quite standard. You know the drill, you know the steps to follow. It's relatively mechanical. It's actually not the most value-added work that you as a human being you can do. The most, the kind of work that gives you most leverage is actually what happens before when you create the kind of asset. When you apply your creativity to solve a problem, to produce something new that becomes an asset later. So, for Taylor Swift, writing songs for her new album, that is the most valuable work that she can do. Now, I don't know what that work is for you. Okay? So, that's something for you to think about. And then there's work when you deepen your relationships with people that you want in your life. If you're just maintaining relationships, those are valuable work too, but it's probably more like $100 per hour work, right? You watch TV with your kids or cook dinner with your spouse, that kind of thing. It's valuable work. But what's really valuable? Something that you do that take your relationship to the next level. I remember a few months earlier, I was in a situation. I had an argument with a very good friend of mine, and we didn't talk for a while. And then, because everybody was like, we were both like, let's just let this sit, right? And that felt like the right thing to do at the time. And then a couple months later, we had this really heartfelt and deep conversation with each other for about an hour, okay? And that really changed a lot of things. That shifted the nature of the relationship. So that's what I consider $1,000 per hour work is deepens the relationship. Move it to a next level with the people that you have a deep connection to in your life. So think about something, is there a difficult conversation that you need to have with someone? Is there something that you need to do to help you to be more thoughtful, be more authentic, be more honest, be more compassionate and understanding with someone? That's $1,000 an hour work. And then there's $10,000 per hour, which we already talked about. The kind of work where it helps you, which helps you to find the clarity about what your life is about, whether it's in your professional life or in your personal life, or to me, these things are all together. To find clarity about your life direction, the strategy, the big picture, right? So that is the kind of priceless work. $10,000 an hour is a total understatement, okay? I already gave you an example that I went to Las Vegas to see my spiritual mentor, and I got this realization, and it didn't even take an hour. But it is the kind of work that is priceless, okay? If you do more of that kind of work, cumulatively, your life will look very different compared to someone who may be working harder than you in the normal, ordinary sense of the word, or someone who's more smarter, prettier, taller, runs faster than you. And also, this also includes the work, to me, anything that deepens your connection with the source, because that is where that clarity comes from. Why did I go to that workshop? Because facilitates a deeper connection with with the source, right? My teacher, he didn't tell me what to do. He can't. This has to come from within, right? But he was there as a facilitator. So anything that can deepen your connection with the source, that is $10,000 per hour work. And that includes the practices that you can do every morning or every day. I talk about this in my Power Mornings audio course. I give you about 11 practices that you can do on a daily basis to consistently deepen your connection with the source until it becomes a no-brainer, until it becomes like your inspiration just spring out of you like, a walk in the park. And also sets the tone for your day. That's also what I consider a very highly valuable kind of work, because it sets the tone for the day so that the rest of the day, whatever you do, the value added will be higher per hour because you did that part of power morning work. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I feel, pissed or groggy or, stressed, and I do my morning work. I do my morning routine, and when I come out of it on the other end, I'm balanced. I'm calm and centered. I'm ready to start my day on a totally different foot. So that's what I consider $10,000 per hour work. That's invaluable. You cannot put a price tag on it, but that's something that you have to do. You've got to do. Okay? So you've got to do more of. And if you want to check this out, my Power Mornings audio course, go to natashachey.com/morning. If you do these exercises and also come up with your own, okay? This is springboard, starting point for you to jump off of. Cumulatively, in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, your life will look so very different. Okay, that's all for today. And I want to thank you for making this Soundcast part of your weekly routine. And if you have not subscribed, please go to natashachey.com/school to join the Empathic Badass Tribe. Okay, I will talk to you next time.